today's mystic guest. We're inviting Rumi. He's one of everybody's favorites. I love this particular excerpt from his poetry. These words will make you consider where you are in your life. And so I am super excited to share them with you. So he says, every craftsman, in order to practice his craft, searches for what is not there. A builder looks for the rotten hole where the roof caved in. A water carrier picks the empty pot. A carpenter stops at the house with no door. Workers rush towards some hint of emptiness, which they then begin to fill. Their hope, though, is for emptiness. So don't think that you must avoid your void. It contains what you need. Now just savor these words for a moment. Just receive them at your heart. Let them sit. Don't let the mind start wrestling with them right away. Just let yourself sit with the words. Breathe into them. And I'm going to just ask a simple question. Do you think you are a craftsman in the stage of your life that you are in today? Not the past, not the future. Where you sit in your life in the present. Do you consider yourself to be a craftsman? And let's define craftsman. Craftsman is somebody who is skilled at taking the raw material and having a vision, envisioning something more grander or more purposeful or meaningful out of just a heap of raw unknowns. And then having the audacity and the conviction and the dedication to patiently start chiseling away or bringing together these raw materials, not knowing how long it'll take, but trusting its vision until that which it feels as a vision from inside soul can get manifested in its life or maybe as its life. That's a craftsman. They're skilled at their craft and they create something unique, a custom piece, unlike any other in the world. Nothing like that exists in the world. So if you take a moment and consider that our lives, yes, we are 7+ billion people, human beings on this planet. Out of all of us, how many craftsmen are there? For us to be on a spiritual path means we are wanting to be a craftsman at this phase of our evolution. We have possibly within this lifetime or through many lifetimes lived our lives as simply consumers of other people's skills, yes? Or I think we can go through other stages too. So these are all just the metaphors I came up with. I think for some time in our lives or for many, many lifetimes, we can choose to exist simply as a warehouse of experiences. Yes? Whatever comes into our life, whatever is given to us, sits in our warehouse and then gets carried forward out of the warehouse and offered to others. Because we are meant to be transceiving devices. We receive and then we transmit. We are meant to offer to others, contribute to others of ourselves. But what are we contributing to others, to life? That question doesn't arise in the consciousness of someone who is not yet ready to awaken to themselves. And that craftsmanship, that's a skilled process. You can only come to that place after many, many lifetimes of simply being a warehouse. If you were yelled at as a child, you yell at your children and you validate that choice or that action like, I got it and I dealt with it, then you can deal with it too. How many of you received that from maybe a warehouse parent? They received what they received, whatever stress, tension, pressure, friction that their life presented to them through other people. And they simply became a warehouse of those experiences. And when the time came to offer, they could only offer that as it was sitting in them, without refining it, without processing it. None of that was done. The raw material was carried forward to another. Like, that's your problem now. It's out of my warehouse, but your problem. I mean, how many times do we do that even in our day, right? When you're stressed or upset or functioning on very little sleep, you haven't had your coffee. You just pour out on others that which sits in you without refining it. To me, that's a warehouse consciousness. Yes. And there's a little refiner version of it. And I like to call it the rebranding, repackaging mindset, where we have received what we have received, but now I can repackage it in a way that substantiates my sense of identity. I just start to identify with the raw material that was given to me. So if I was abused, if I feel victimized, I just rebrand that victimhood to be seen and heard by others, to be validated by others. And I only pour that out into the world. It is of some use. It's not of no use at all. It is of some purpose. It is some use, but it's still not skilled craftsmanship. What Rumi is talking to, and the people Rumi is talking to, are the ones who are considering moving out of the warehouse mentality or the rebranding expert to actually wanting to know what to do with this raw material that life in its countless, unrelenting, surprising ways keeps gifting to us. It never stops. Notice, life never stops giving us the raw materials. So he says, every craftsman, in order to practice his craft, her craft, searches for what is not there. So there's an emptiness, there's avoidance of something. If you notice, that'll be for each of us in our lives. There is something that creates or feels like an emptiness, like a void. And in my experience, that void is where we will find our dharma. The purpose of our existence lives in that void. And so he goes on to give these very simple examples. He says, a builder looks for a rotten hole. If a space is rotting, the builder goes, I have work here. I can find work here. A water carrier picks the empty pot to fill it up. A carpenter stops at the house with no door because now there will be a need for it. And workers rush towards some hint of emptiness which they can begin to fill. So this draw is showing up in everything and everyone. So just consider the immaculate design of existence. And as long as this design prevails, as long as our breath prevails, we are all being drawn towards refinement, towards evolution. So I just consider that as the sole purpose of our existence, especially as human beings, because we have a consciousness. So this void that we feel within us, when we begin our existence, we don't know what that is. We don't even have words to articulate that. I mean, I can speak for myself. I always felt that. Always felt. I just didn't know what that was. But it was there. It was very clearly there. And like everyone else, I tried to articulate it and I couldn't find the words to articulate it because I didn't know what it was. Or maybe some days I did find some abstract words and they were not understood. How can they be? Because even I can't understand it. Or sometimes they were laughed upon as a joke. Maybe just as a joke, even I would joke about it. I remember joking about opening a yoga studio. I remember that laughingly when even the name of my studio came up, Seventh Chakra Yoga. I remember that moment laughingly sharing it with my friends. Wouldn't that be great if we had a yoga studio with this name? And who knew that was about to become the first step of me entering my own void where I would find my dharma, my purpose. Yes, I had many roles to play in life. I was a wife, I was a mother, I was a daughter, I was an employee, I had the status of my education. But those were all roles. None of them were filling my void. In fact, the longer or more I tried to pack my void with more and more relationships and friendships and social engagements and titles and identities, it was a very strange moment when I saw my own eyes and I looked, they were dead. But it wasn't until I took that first step. Wouldn't that be great? We can start as a joke. But even that what if, that wonder of what if this is a possibility, we can start to explore that void. We can start to feel into the nature of its existence. What's the shape, the length, the breadth, the feeling, the frequency? What is it calling for? Because one thing I can tell you, wherever you go, this void goes with you. So there's no outrunning this void. You can't do that. Someday you will be ready. Someday life will corner you and you will go, oh no. And you will have to stare back into that void. And all the techniques, all the tools, yoga, meditation, religion, prayer, these are all tools to help you be prepared to someday face that void. Because in that void, like he says, don't avoid it. Because what it contains, what you need, what your life needs, what your soul needs. And I found that until we start to look into our void, we remain a mere consumer. So we create an imbalance in our lives, which is the core of suffering. We want to consume based on the depth of our void, don't we? The more void we feel in a sense of validation, I need to be seen, I need to be heard. If that's your void, and you haven't really looked at that void for what it is and what it's asking you to do, you will try to fill that void by consuming more from the other people. It's like endless attention. So that's their void. They're consuming more than they can offer. And that creates an imbalance. And as long as there's imbalance in our life, we will experience suffering. So the moment we can create balance by understanding these voids in different dimensions of our life. So there's this one central void, but you will also find that everything we engage in reveals more voids. If you step into relationship, your relationship will ask you to look at the empty spaces that you feel within yourself, within the relationship. If you step into a career, that career will show you voids where you can still have room and space to grow and excel. So no matter what path you take, these voids will keep showing up. And all they are doing, they're inviting you in to grow, evolve, and become skilled at all these different dimensions. And as we bring these dimensions together, refining one at a time, you tend to become a pretty skilled craftsman. And that is what we want to do in our existence. And the more you can refine and excel at this chiseling of the void to craft what your soul is envisioning, the more you can do that, the more you get to know yourself. You become anchored in a place within yourself where no one can flick you off that platform anymore, no matter how strong the winds, no matter how strong the storms. But in order to create this sense of balance, start with simply acknowledging. First, if there's that imbalance in your life, simply acknowledge that imbalance. If somebody was a warehouse consciousness and gave you trauma because they had trauma, that is the raw material that is available to you to use when you become a craftsman. Maybe before that, you don't. It just sits as a lump in your warehouse, right? Let's consider this for a moment. If you can all close your eyes, stay with me, and feel into the nature of your own void. It's going to be unique for each one of us. And it'll not feel comfortable. It'll not feel pleasant. It'll not feel safe. It'll not feel familiar. Breathe into it. You will have to slow your breath down. You can mentally count to 4 as you inhale. And you can slowly exhale on a count of 4. but your mind's eye is turned inwards, going deeper and deeper into that ocean until you look for a space that is completely dark, where you can't see anything. And the impulse will be to avoid it. The impulse will be to run away from it. Just feel that feeling for a second. And just hear these words of Rumi. Every craftsman, in order to practice its craft, searches for what is not there. So, what is not there for you today? But you feel the need for it. Your soul's hope, your soul is always looking for that space of emptiness. It'll naturally want to move into that space because that is the space where evolution is possible, growth is possible. Feel free to share if something came up for you, if you can articulate that void. How did that feel for you? We need people like each other who are on this path of craftsmanship to understand the abstract nature of this work, where we have a vision of what it might be, what might that call is, what that pull is for each one of us. And most often, when we do feel into that pull, we do feel into that obscurity, and an image, a vision starts to form around that we want to create or craft, we need a lot of support for that. Okay, maybe it's not a lot, maybe one person, just one person supporting an abstract idea. That's what it felt like for me. I remember the first time I even expressed wanting to open a yoga studio. I felt so embarrassed. I felt so silly saying that because that went against all the expectations that I had set up for myself. I went to school for master's in finance. I have a degree as a CPA. And what do I want to do? I want to open a yoga studio. That felt very counter to all the markers of success that I know society has. So it felt silly expressing that void. Like that's the vision that's coming to fill this void. Because when I even think about it, it makes me joyous, it makes me happy. So, what is that vision for you? And if you need that support, you reach out to someone who knows that your space will be held for you, even if they don't understand it, even if it goes against the popular markers of success. This is what my soul wants, it desires. That's you moving into that place of the void, turning around, not being scared of it any longer, not trying to fill it any longer with just these random things that everybody else is doing, but becoming true to the nature of your own unique void. Just begin by acknowledging it. That's the first step. And everything else comes after that. But at each step, your patience will be asked for. That is one of the traits of a true craftsman. If you notice anyone making custom anything, right? Custom furniture, custom jewelry, custom clothing, because each piece is so unique, they have to start with a vision, create the mold for it, then shape it, vision it, sometimes even destroy it completely and start all over again. That is one of the traits that you will have to build in yourself to be a craftsman, craftswoman. We can add that too, right? So begin from where you are. But I just wanted to share these words of Rumi with you to hopefully help you locate yourself. If you've been a warehouse for a while, it's okay. That was a stage. If you've been a rebrander of the same stuff that other people have thrown at you, just rebranded it in a more refined, sophisticated way. Sure, that was a stage of life too. But are you at a place in your life where you're being called to become skilled? That means you will have to gather the tools. You will have to possibly find a mentor. You will have to learn what patience is. You will have to learn what failure is. You will have to learn self-compassion through that failure. It's arduous, and that's why not a lot of people in this 7 to 8 billion population that we have step into this place of being a soul craftsman. And that's how we chisel and shape our own unique self. No one else can do that for us. But those who have done it are immortal. That's what the yogis would call immortality. Now you're immortal to yourself. That cannot be taken away. That skill will always be there with your consciousness forever. Thank you for joining me today.